Meeting for MIPI Alliance, all members session, and I will kick off the working group presentations to all member session with the presentation of analog control interface working group. This is a new working group. It was just established end of last year, beginning its phase as a working group instead of investigation group. What I'm going to cover in my presentation is basically what's the charter of this working group, what is the organization, schedule, and really what are the objectives of the working group. The analog control interface working group was actually conceived by the board as a general working group addressing all analog control interfaces for the MIPI Alliance, but currently it is only focused on one task, which is envelope tracking technology. The working group was originally initiated to address a power consumption problem and related system problem in mobile terminals. That being that the transmitter power consumption and heat production are key problems facing these devices today, and these are really caused by the ever-increasing data transmission rate and advanced modulation techniques required to transmit higher and higher bit rates from the user devices to wireless base stations in various networks. And envelope tracking was seen as a leading technique for improving the efficiency of such RF transmit solutions. However, there were no interfaces that supported the technical implementation of such transmitters. And basically what was missing was a connection, a wideband connection between the baseband or radio frequency integrated circuit and the power supply, which is supposed to do the envelope tracking for the power amplifier. So there was no interface in existence or standardized by MIPI Alliance for handling this interface. And that was really the key problem that the MIPI Alliance and the board identified during the second half of last year. And that's what the working group is addressing in the first stage. Why an analog interface? Pretty much all the other interfaces of MIPI Alliance are digital. Even in the RF area we have DIC RF, which addresses the baseband RFIC interface for all radio access technologies. However, for the analog interface that we're addressing here, it's very appropriate. On the transmitter side, we do have integrated circuits which are built on semiconductor processes that actually can handle very high-speed digital interfaces, just such like DIC RF or certain memory interfaces, D-PHY, M-PHY. However, the process technologies that are likely to be used for the envelope tracking power supply in such a system are not on such a process node which would easily, or at least cost-effectively, allow the inclusion of very high-speed digital interfaces or very high-speed serial digital interfaces. So, at least for the first generation of this interface standard, the investigation group deemed that it would be appropriate to look into analog interface. So basically what we are defining is DAC with potentially some reconstruction filtering on the transmitting side and an analog input on the EP power supply side. And what we are really talking about is a differential analog interface because we have quite high requirements for signal fidelity, noise immunity, and so on. The MIPI RFFE interface, which some of you may be, and I hope most of you are familiar with, is a digital serial interface, and it's also associated with the RF front end, and especially the RF front end control. And one remark I need to make at this point is really to deconflict these two interfaces. The envelope tracking interface is not a replacement, it's rather a complement to the MIPI RFFE interfaces. So the system view or the system concept that we have in the ACI working group is that the transmitter, the power amplifier, the EP power supply, as well as other components and devices in the radio front end are controlled with the digital serial MIPI RFFE interface. And the commands and the operation of this interface is the domain of the RFFE working group. So if we see some unique needs or requirements for that interface, we will refer them to that working group. ACI working group is really concerned with the envelope signal. So really the purpose is to specify the interface between the RFIC and the envelope tracking power supply using an analog interface. The purpose of the working group is to create the specification, any supporting documentation that is needed, and we're currently working on an application note, and then to maintain the specification and its roadmap. What we are not standardizing is the interface between the EP power supply and the power amplifier. And that is really due to the fact that that interface very much involves PCB design at the product level, so different form factors, different numbers of PAs used, different band requirements, different radio access technologies, as well as the fact that envelope tracking power amplifiers and envelope tracking power supplies are both emerging technologies. So that interface is very much in flux. So what we are addressing is the perhaps lower hanging fruit of the envelope reference signal, but not this interface. That is up to the device vendors and the system implementers to cover. So what is in scope? The physical interface, differential, analog, pin names, such things, as well as the electrical specifications required to get the signal from point A to point B with compatibility. What this specification is not, it is not a system specification, neither is the application note an exhaustive description how to build envelope tracker systems. Simply the application note covers the derivation of the specifications in the specification document and gives background why the numbers are what they are. Because of industry pressure to release this technology with rather aggressive schedules, the working group similarly has a very aggressive schedule. We are targeting third quarter or end of third quarter this year to release the specification to review by the board, and hopefully after a few months of review periods the board would be able to release the specification and adopt it still this year with the supporting application note. This of course is subject to the working group being able to rapidly make progress with the technical specification, writing, identifying the key specifications, assigning numerical values to those technical requirements and the supporting application note. The working group has had additional face-to-face meetings between the official MIPI quarterly face-to-face meetings to accelerate work, and I think in future we will also probably during late summer have to have additional face-to-face meetings before the next quarterly MIPI meeting as well to accelerate work. So the deliverables that we are currently working on, we have a 0.1 draft revision of the envelope tracking specification. The current name of the specification is Analog Control Interface Envelope Tracking, ACI-ET. This is currently being discussed with the marketing working group, whether it's the final specification name or whether we will find a better name for the specification. Supporting application note has also just been drafted. It also is currently revision 0.1, so both documents are quite immature at this point. We hope to rev up at least the specification after this meeting once we are able to put in some key numbers that are still missing in the specification. In terms of the organization, my name is Juha, Pennanen. I'm the chairman of the working group from Texas Instruments. I'm supported by two vice chairmen, Ryan Botken from Motorola Mobility, or I don't know if I should call it Google, due to the recent acquisition, as well as the former investigation group phase chairman Pascal Trier from ST Ericsson. We have relatively broad attendance in the working group, including perhaps 4 categories of companies, with some exceptions. We have PA companies, we have chipset companies, actually quite a broad presentation of RF chipset companies. We have OEMs. I would like to see more OEMs in the working group, as well as companies working in the area of EP power supplies, both startups and established companies. And we also occasionally see some test companies who are related in the test and measurement related questions around this specification. Obviously, any contributor level member would be welcome to join the working group and strengthen it. The weekly operations of the working group are centered around conference calls and then both the quarterly MIPI meetings as well as additional face-to-face meetings when the working group sees those are needed. At this point, I would like to take any questions, comments from the audience you may have. Yes?
Just a procedural one. Do we have the presentation on the website?
I think
they'll be on the website after the all members meeting, so beginning on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I will hand over to the battery interface working